really got to try on that left-hand side. What happened?
Oh, but I've gone up and over and bloody head over biscuit. It wasn't enough stability there for myself, but no, I was busting for a bit of meat this game. It didn't seem to work out.
Hello, cheers, and welcome to the Scrum of the Earth podcast, the weekly show for news, reviews, great interviews, and so much more, all about the world of rugby. My name is David Lawrence. I'm an American rugby fan who follows the game wherever I can find it all over the globe. If you'd like to get in touch, I'm easy enough to find on all your socials, and you can always just drop an email to thescrumoftheearth@gmail.com. Well, as you have no doubt deduced, this is not your regular weekly episode, but is yet another hybrid/bonus episode. I guess it should be hybrid weekly/bonus. Okay, hold on, I gotta fix the script. Anyway, this time I'm thrilled to announce the return of two pod favorites, and two favorites of mine, quite frankly. We've got cat/stat boy Huw Griffin and not that kind of Dr. Harley Worthy. Guys, how are you both doing? It's so great to see you. Oh, Huw has really brought it to the next level today.
You tell me to come with my Christmas outfit.
And you said you don't really have much, and here we are with a full visit from St. Nick.
I'm full of surprises.
I think it was 2 years ago that we started this very triumvirate conversation. It was right around the holiday time. The reason I know that is because Huw taught me a word that day, because you described yourself as being full of stodge. And I had never heard the word stodge used that way. I'd of course heard the word stodgy, which I associate with, anyone who works for the WRU, but I didn't know stodge was something you could actually consume. That was fascinating to me.
Yeah, stodge is the best kind of food. A lot of our WhatsApp conversations are me teaching you English words that you don't have, and the one that I taught you recently was natter, having a natter.
I do like that.
Decided that it would be inappropriate for you to say it as an American.
It doesn't sound right with it because it's like let's have a natter. No, it's some of those words just don't float. That's mostly our conversation is which ones can I use successfully, because it's not all of them. By the way, Harley, I don't know if I told you this. I was chatting with Huw once, and it was one of those moments where I was like, oh my God, he taught me a new vocabulary word. I love this word. And in my family, if you learn a new vocabulary word, you get on the phone and you call the rest of the family to tell them, I've got a new word, I got a new word. And I thought he had taught me a word, Aristrune. And I started looking it up, like Aristrune. And in the middle of typing it in, I was like, no, not Aristrune. Error strewn. And somebody used it yesterday during the Champions Cup. Somebody said, it was an error strewn game for the Stormers. And I was like, there it is.
Yeah, I think I have heard that one before. I can't remember whether it was you who told me or Huw himself, but error strewn's something I quite like. Being a fan of Welsh rugby, error strewn is something very firmly established in our lexicon.
It also could be a town, right? It's just north of Aristrune.
I feel like that's more of like an old English town than a Welsh town, to be honest.
Yeah, fair.
Estrystroon would be probably more like us.
Well, we've got 3 lovely segments to get through today. I figure we should get started. Obviously, the reason I've really asked you here is to talk about... I'm trying to get the face right. No, we're not going to talk about the Lions. We're
not talking about the... No, I was going to say, because the remake isn't as good as the original cartoon.
They did beat Poe yesterday, though.
Oh, yes, that's true. Oh, hey, I haven't seen some of these things. By the way, for me, I'm kind of behind on the rugby. I caught a fair amount, and I sort of skipped over or skimmed through some things to make sure I had at least some of this in the bag. But have you both been watching? Have you had a chance this weekend? It was holiday party weekend for us, so I'm a little behind mentally and in the watching.
Yeah, so for me, my wife and child came back up to Wales, so we did the sort of tour around all the families and things. So it was a bit more focused on that than rugby. So I managed to catch a couple of games. I seem to have a knack of picking the worst game possible that was on at any given time, so it did not leave me too enthusiastic.
Huw, it occurs to me you are making so many podcasts these days. It occurred to me that you've got a beard on right now. If you grow a thick beard and start calling yourself Huw Griffineshvili, you could do like a Black Lion pod. How niche would that be?
I wouldn't be against that. I'm not actually genetically able to grow a beard, and I'm struggling quite a lot right now because I'd very much like to have a sip of my Guinness, but I'm struggling to find an angle of
There's straws for that. You want the helmet with the two things.
You can't drink. You can't drink Guinness through a straw. That would be ridiculous, man. Um, what was the question?
Are you in fact a closet Georgian?
I am not. No, I did my yearly review with Harry Jones, and I'm actually a little bit down on Georgia at the moment. I'm like, you were supposed to be the next big thing, and you're not. So,
well, I don't know what that feels like.
Yeah. So no, but to Harley's point of couldn't manage to pick the worst game possible. There was no right game to choose over the last 2 days. They were all pretty meh.
There was something about this weekend. I'm a little down on it. So my weekend started with Cast versus Munster. Jack Crowley not finding touch to hand that game to Cast. Shocking. Are Munster actually in trouble? Because when they fired their coach, I was like, you guys this is crazy. You had literally the exact same record at that moment that you did the year you won it. What are you doing? Now I'm not so sure. What's going on? Harley, what's going on with Munster? Are we worried?
I'm going to use the same phrase I said straight after the Dragons' first game after getting rid of Di Flan. It's a good thing they spent all that money buying out their coach's contract, isn't it?
Exactly. What was the plan? I don't see how that was a strategic move.
I just think we're getting to silly season. It's just coach silly season. You get it every couple of years after World Cup where everyone thinks, oh, we'll just fire our head coach and then hopefully there'll be so many on the market. We'll get someone new in to get some new ideas.
It was weird. The year they won it, around that time of the season, like if you did a word cloud of all the Munster sort of press, the word in the middle would have been crisis. And yet this time, nobody was saying that. And then, boom, you're out, pal.
Yeah, I mean, Grounchy's first year, the year they actually won the URC, they lost to they did a 1-2 loss to Cardiff and the Dragons. And they still kept with him. And then, look, it all came up. And you had a similar thing. They have a really slow start. I don't know what Munster's preseason is. I think it's just hitting each other with massive mallets because they always seem to have an injury crisis, and then after Christmas, it all comes good. This, there's a joke Patricia and Kaylin have when they do the Red Army pod of Stephen Archer weather, which is as soon as the sun starts coming out, then that's when Munster come to the best because Stephen Archer just allowed to roam free because he's solar panel powered somehow.
Huw, I think it's fair to say that if there was footage of Munster just hitting themselves with mallets in the preseason, you and I would have done a podcast about it.
Yeah, I can't really do my honest thoughts about Munster because Kaylin will never podcast with me again. I think they need to stop worrying so much about how much money Leinster are spending and worry about themselves for a change, to be honest. When you have that level of injury crisis every single year, and to this extent, it's not unlucky. There's something wrong that they're doing wrong. And I've spoken to some people in Irish rugby lately who talk about how they conduct training and the amount of training hours they spend in full contact sessions, and maybe how some of their recruitment, they don't do their homework on the injury profile of players, certain players who they have signed, and lo and behold, they're injured. And now we have examples.
How can that be? How can the recruiters not know that? Like, that is the thing that you most need to be looking out for, right?
It's a great question. And now you can look at players who've left Munster and gone to other places and are now no longer injury riddled. So they need to have a look at themselves, I think, and stop worrying so much about what the boys in blue are doing and focus completely on their own house, I think.
You're saying the fire regulations in Dublin are much stricter.
Yeah. Although, did you see Geordie Barrett did have a braai with RJ Snyman the other day?
I did.
He's living his best life, by the way.
And I think both of them are okay. Yeah. Yes. Famous Dubliner Geordie Barrett. By the way, I just asked some other people this recently. Huw, which Barrett would you most like to be?
Bowden. Definitely.
Harley? It's going to say an awful lot about me and how my attitude to rugby. I want to be Scott. I want to be able to get away with half the shit he can get away with. That would be my dream on the pitch.
I just think it would be cool to walk into a room and be bigger than most of the people. I've never experienced that. It feels like that'd be neat.
But who is
only when I was a couple of years?
He's massive.
What's that?
Who is actually taller between Scott and Geordie? Because Geordie is massive. Geordie was
I think
interviewed by
Scott
Jamie
just
Roberts.
about.
Yeah, because Geordie was interviewed by Jamie Roberts, and Jamie Roberts looked normal size, stood next to
Really?
Geordie Barrett. And Jamie Roberts' whole career was built on being the biggest one.
I feel like Geordie's the same size as Bowden Barrett when you look at perspective. Like when the camera's on the field, where Bowden is on the field, where
Yes.
Geordie is, they're the exact same size.
Yeah. Harley's looking it up. I can see him looking it up.
I mean, but
Yeah.
Scott has the hulking thing. Like Geordie is much bigger than perhaps he seems in first impression, but Scott is hulking. Like he comes in the room and you go, ah.
Yeah.
It's also confirmed. So I thought Geordie Barrett's about 6'5", so 190 odd centimeters.
Yeah.
And Scott is
Geordie's built like a quarterback.
yeah, good. Maybe. So this is wonderful radio for people.
Yes.
You keep bantering whilst I
Spend more time looking that up. The next game I actually caught a piece of was the Bulls versus Northampton. Saints dominated for like 3/4 of the match, but Bulls fought back to make it 21-22 with less than 10 minutes to go. But then Northampton, they really put it to bed, 21-30. Is the aura of invincibility around the Bulls at home fading a bit? You know, they didn't lose there all year last year until it really mattered. And now people are just popping over there during these cups and saying, oh, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I think Huw, I don't know how much he wants to upset his South African listeners and if he wants me to repeat what he said to me when we were discussing this yesterday.
No, it's fine. No, I've had South African.
That's right, because we've had Jake White fraud watch, basically because something's not going right with the Bulls. You know, he put a lot of eggs in the start of the URC season to play his box through. I don't think it was a particularly weak inside against Saints.
He's a man who's good at being upset about things.
And also going back to what we were talking about, Scott Barrett is just taller than Geordie. He's 6'6", so 197, and Geordie's like 195.
Story checks out.
And I think more importantly, Saints look more. I think it's saying the Saints are more the real deal. Like everyone's been saying, oh yeah, they won the Premiership. It was all really fancy, but they're not going to do anything in Europe. And it's looking like actually, you know, I'm not saying they're gonna win it because it's still going to be Toulouse, but spoilers for when we get to who I think is going to win the tournament. But you know, Saints I think are definitely going to be getting deep in the knockouts.
No, I'm one of those people. Even when they were winning the Premiership, I was like, no, that's not real, right? Huw, have I been wrong about the Saints this whole time? Did they just show us, hey, everybody shut up, we're actually here for real?
No, I didn't get to watch the game, but I saw everyone on socials was saying the Bulls lost it rather than Saints won it. And that doesn't surprise me. I think the Bulls switch off in games way too much. They're starting to catch Sharks fever in terms of they think the team sheet is good enough and so they can just rock up. I think there's probably a bit of an emotional hangover from how many of that team was playing for South Africa. And this is a bit kind of, they're not as up for it there. I do think there's a lot of complacency from them about playing it at Loftus, particularly. They think that we're the Bulls playing at Loftus, therefore we'll win. You know, they lost the Curry Cup semi-final to the Sharks at Loftus. I think it was at Loftus. Anyway, they did. And they you know, their season hasn't been as bad as it feels like in my head. I posted on Blue Sky that I felt like they'd lost every other game, but no, this is only their third loss of the year. Their only league loss being against the Scarlets. You know, when the Scarlets beat the Bulls, just making sure everybody's aware about that. The Scarlets beat the Bulls. Just making sure you all know. Yes, and you know, it started off with John Plumtree for the Sharks was the one who was on Fraud Watch, and then you had John Dobson, who I said was on Fraud Watch this time last year, and no one believed me, and now everyone's saying it. And now people are starting to ask, is Jake White taking the Bulls as far as they can go? Because they have a very, very good squad. So at the moment, it's only Matty, Cash Money, Cash at the Lions that everyone's giving praise at the moment in terms of coaching in South Africa. So interesting times.
Well, Parole City, they were taking on Ospreys. I was surprised to see Hogg out there.
I'm not allowed to talk about this.
Oh, is that right?
You are. It's fine. It's fine. It's not a rap podcast.
Well, I was just wondering, seeing Hogg out there, it made me wonder, is there an issue with extradition rules between these countries? Is that the issue? I feel like if you want to beat Montpellier, you just have to play them far away enough from Montpellier that their little, ankle bracelets will go off and they won't be allowed to go.
Yeah, probably. Because Hogg
did work for the Dragons, did it?
Yeah, Hogg did get his conviction and is still playing somehow. Fritz Lee as well for Claremont got done for breaking a barmaid's arm the other day and is still playing.
Jesus.
So, yeah.
What I want to
terms of
know
the
is
actual
what has Adam
game,
Beard done?
Sorry?
What
yeah.
hasn't come out about Adam Beard? Because he's very strongly rumoured to be going over there next season.
Yeah, done deal.
So he must have done something heinous.
Yeah. I didn't see the game, but I saw the score, and of course I messaged Harley saying, "Have a look at the Ospreys score."
It was bad.
Yeah,
I have a good look to the highlights, and well, I mean highlights if you're not anyway that you have no way of vested interest in Welsh rugby,
Right.
Because so for audio listeners, Huw is lifting up his beard to sip his Guinness, and it is a funny sight. Yeah, so I mean the biggest problem for me is the Ospreys when they go away. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Toby Booth and stuff, but they've had this all the way through his tenure as coach as well. I mean, I wouldn't. It looks a fairly strong enough side. I mean, it's about as strong as they can put up with all the another team that seems to have.
I think it was as strong as
Jack Morgan. Even Jack Morgan looked. I mean, some of those tries you can see Jack Morgan was struggling. I don't know if that's just from having the extra weight of carrying the other 14 on his back or not, but it was just very soft. Like,
I don't get it. Ospreys and Benetton this year both are massively underperforming where I expected them to be, and I just don't quite get it.
The coaching ticket's gone stale at the Ospreys for me. I did an analysis piece about them looking at their attack, and I understand what it is they're trying to do. It's very easy to see what they're trying to do, and it is arguably quite advanced in that they're trying to get the forwards to ball play and shift the ball along. If you had that hat the whole time, what's
I don't know how I can navigate it with the headphones. That's the problem.
Well, I wanted to see if I could put my hat over my flat cap and be double hatted. But anyway, you have one-upped me in the Santa hats. That one is a lot more luxurious than mine. But anyway, back to the Ospreys' attack. It's just they expect their forwards to handle the ball constantly and playmaking and stand in the 13 channel and things. And cool, very advanced, very clever, but it just means that the likelihood of mistakes being made is through the roof. And
that's a great point.
They make a lot of mistakes. And
would you describe them as error-strewn?
I would. That's exactly how I describe them. So yeah, and they don't seem to be able to turn up away from home. They don't seem to be able to turn up not at the Brewery Field at the moment. I'm saying all this with quite a lot of fear in my heart because Scarlets are playing them next. So I'll let Harley continue talking about the Ospreys, but they.
By the way, Harley, it was 26-3 at halftime, 59-15 by the end, and that was a serious, real garbage
those last two tries
yeah.
were that looked like more like Montpellier just gave up. Those last two tries.
Janet was a drop goal when they were already like 3 scores down. Like what? Great.
Yeah.
Well done.
I mean, I kind of get it because it's just trying to get any sort of points on the board and it's just a way of trying to get quick and easy momentum. I do think they've given. I mean, I do think Dan Edwards is, quite a good prospect at 10.
Yeah, I think he's 10 by a long way.
But I think
this looks well better.
I don't know if Kieran Williams was injured, but I'm presuming so because they had Owen Williams at 12 and then Owen Watkin at 13. And if your forwards aren't carrying and getting you meters, you've got to get someone in the backs, and then they don't really have the backs to do it because they've gone so lightweight. And you just watch it, and it's going side to side and backwards because no one. Basically, the easiest way to defend against the Ospreys, you just drift because they're focusing so hard on getting the ball to the wing that no one's going forward. So you don't actually need to be that aggressive. And because they haven't got Nicky Smith here, who's just very good at winning penalties and seemed to know exactly what referees wanted, he conceded a lot as well, to be fair. But because they can't get down the field very quickly or easily, and I think that's really messed up the thing. And they're just not as clinical as they were. I don't know if it is this new attack that's messed them up a bit. But so for the previous game at home, they had nearly 50% of their possession in the opposition's 22, not half, 22.
Wow.
And the conversion rate was like 1 point in every entry. And it's,
wow.
And last season, the big thing about the Ospreys was they would get at least 3 every time they were in.
Yeah.
I think that's their
that was
biggest
how they
issue,
all those little bonus points is what edged them into the top 8, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if we don't have XG in rugby. Opta tried to do expected points. XG, for people who don't know, is in football is expected goals. And over the course of a season, for one-off games, it's not really useful at all. But for over a season, you get to see it. And I would be interested to see if maybe last season Ospreys overperformed their expected points based on what they did. And I don't know how you'd work out given the reliance they have on driving balls to create tries. But I wonder if this is kind of a bounce back from that, if they kind of over delivered last season and now the law of averages is hitting them this season. I don't know.
Well, a game that actually turned out to be really fun, for me at least. Ulster played Ube Bay. Joey Carberry started for Ube Bay. That felt weird to me somehow. Taking advantage of 2 yellow cards against the visitors, it was Werner Koch crashing over to take a lead into halftime. But my Border Beagles, they roared back in the second half, holding Ulster scoreless, giving them a real hiding 19-40. Did either of you see the Penno try? Because that's when the floodgates opened.
I haven't seen it, I'm afraid.
Oh,
And you're the baby. You're the Bordeaux fan.
I am.
I know.
And do a French rugby podcast.
I know.
I'm pretty sure I can't remember
sorry
what
for
time that
spoiling
game
that
was, but
just now,
I
then.
think it was about the same time. I think it might be in the same time as Cardiff. If not, it was when I was visiting family. I said it all sort of blurs together. I said this has not been a good European season for me so far in terms of watching.
Leinster, of course, were hosting Claremont. Did either of you see the opening try by Raka? It was pure NFL style, over the top. I love that. I'm surprised we don't see that more often. Like when there's a pile of bodies on the ground, don't go under it, just go over it if you're that big and you got that kind of reach. It was beautiful. But of course, it didn't really matter in the end. It was not an exciting game, 15-7 at the end. Any thoughts on this one? Did either of you catch any of this kind of snooze fest?
I did watch it, and it was a bit under. It did under deliver. I seem to be the only person who's willing to admit that they're enjoying watching Geordie Barrett playing for Leinster. It's not going to last very long, so I'm enjoying it while it's going on. He's absolutely class, and Leinster are evolving how they play. We have said that they've been boring and have been boring to watch, but they're now trying to chuck it around a bit, and it's high time that they did evolve, and they are trying to evolve. It's not clicking at the moment. It will click at some point this season. And that Geordie Barrett signing is starting to look less like a just look what we can do and more like a signing that actually makes sense. And RG Snyman as well. It also looks like those signings were made with a plan for them rather than just kind of hoarding good players.
Yeah.
So
Snyman's one of the top players in the world for me. Like he changes your team immediately as soon as he's on the field. And
yeah, he's probably the best offloader in the world at the moment. So
that's it.
So I am enjoying. That is giving me something to enjoy about Leinster because there is a narrative about them at the moment, and there is a storyline to follow. And of course, Sam Prendergast coming through and things. And I just kind of think, God, everyone waxes so lyrical about Toulouse. If Toulouse had signed Geordie Barrett, no one would moan. So I'm not moaning about him signing for Leinster either.
Geordie had a good game too. He got a try. It was actually funny if you watch it back. It's like he's over the line and he's ready to do, like he's kind of knows where the camera is and he's ready to do like a yeah, and then he realizes, oh wait, I haven't actually got it down yet. Has to make a second move. Boom. Then he gets it down. Then he's like, yeah. Like, are you still there, camera? Okay, we got it. And it's funny. I do like Geordie Barrett. I was anti Geordie Barrett for a few years, and then he really won me over. But I don't know, the Irish version of him, I'm just like, meh.
He got a bit of stick this year for his performance in the All Blacks, and I look at the stats every single game, and I thought he was great all year.
Yeah. He figured it out like 3 years ago. He went from unreliable to always in the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's been great.
The what?
So I was going to say I actually didn't watch the Leinster game. I watched the other game. And this is where I'm saying I was picking the wrong game basically most games. So I watched Leicester versus the Sharks.
I haven't even seen that one yet. What happened? What's your highlight?
Basically, Sharks looked really good to start off with. They got the opening try, and then Leicester Leicestered, and they basically just did exactly what you expect a Leicester team do, and it was just brutal dismantling of the opposition team. And we'll score ugly, we'll score out whatever. Henry Pollard, absolutely
I was going to say,
masterclass.
what kind of team did the Sharks field though? Was it
It was a
it
touring team. There's 4 Sharks teams. Everyone thinks there's only 3. Everyone thinks there's the Durban, the Miami, and the Sale. There's actually a 4th Sharks. There's the Sale, Miami, Durban, and away from Durban. And the away from Durban is the one that turned up, and it did what we're used to seeing it doing in the URC, which is completely crumble.
I mean, it's probably not their full, but it's not full box. But I mean, you had players like Jaden Hendricks, who was the 9. You had Juno, who's up and coming loose head. He was there. Dylan Richardson, Scotland international somehow.
I was going to say
Devon Kane, again, someone who was just an absolute key for the Box years ago. Jason Jenkins, formerly of Leinster. Ruben van Heerden, again, near enough the squad, but probably not quite as versatile enough to break through. Buthelezi, who everyone was absolutely like, he's amazing. You've got all these really exciting players in NTU, so it was enough top Sharks team, admittedly, but
Harley, what is the Sharks plan this year?
It should have been better.
Last year they were stinking it up so bad in the URC. They were like, you know what? Maybe we can win this Challenge Cup, and then they did pretty emphatically. Now they're up a level, but they're kind of faltering in both. What is their plan? What are they going to? What do the Sharks want to win this year?
Springbok tests.
I think they want to win the Champions Cup. I think they're the only South African team that wants to win it, and the Durban Sharks have the squad to do it. The away from Durban Sharks, they're going to have a struggle.
I think we'll see with the Sharks. They're going to follow the French sort of route, which is try and pick up points away, but focus on your home games. And that should be enough to get through. They're still not allowed to have the semi-finals and I think maybe the quarters in South Africa. They can have the round 16 and that's it, really, unless it's an all South African game. So there's no point.
Is that a rule that's going to expire?
Is
that a rule that's going to expire? Is that if they're
still? Yeah, I think
next year.
Is
it? Okay.
Yeah, I imagine it will depend on. I mean,
it seems weird. It's like,
season,
welcome to the competition. Screw you
buy-in.
guys. It's always been a little weird. I saw a game that I enjoyed. Harlequins versus Stormers. I recently learned that me supporting the Harlequins is kind of strange because they were like the most Tory team possible in rugby. Johnny McGinty was saying how he went to a game there and he said, if you were to imagine the most stereotypical English rugby fan, you'd look in that crowd and if you were having AI build it for you, you'd be like, okay, that, but more and more and more and more. But I don't know. I love them. I love the quartered outfit. I love Alex Donbrandt. He had a hat trick. They completely dominated the Stormers. Am I the only person who still thinks that Alex Donbrandt is great? I feel like I've heard so much crap about him over the last year or so, and I love that guy. Am I way off the mark?
Likes him because he used to play for Cardiff.
Oh,
he never played for Cardiff. He was Cardiff Met, and I am Cardiff Uni till I die. Screw those Polytechnic chumps. Sorry, Cardiff. So in the University League, and this week Cardiff University beat Cardiff Met for the first time in forever. Cardiff Met is a big sporting university. So that's where all people go to do their sports degrees and stuff. Like I look quite a few Wales internationals. Going back, Gareth Edwards. Down to the age of Gareth Edwards and stuff. They were at Cardiff Met or UWIC back then when it was the technical college, and then various other politics. But anyway, modern professionals as well have done a lot of their degrees there. I think Alex Cuthbert, he was Cardiff Met as well. I just want to go on to the Donbrandt thing.
Sorry, just to sidetrack you, we've talked about this. Alex Cuthbert, I can't listen to him. I love the Scrum 5 pod. I love Lauren Jenkins. I love that show. And then they added Alex Cuthbert, and I had to unsubscribe. I can't listen to him. It's not that he doesn't have insights. It's not that he's like dumb or something. He knows what he's talking about. I just don't want to listen to him. Is that weird?
That's just a former colleague of ours in the podcast, and we're going to say that's just because he used to play for Exeter or something like that.
Sorry, Alex Donbrandt.
So I think the problem is some players work very well in very specific setups. Sam Simmons is a classic example of why he never worked for England, but he worked really well for Exeter, was because the pack was built around him doing what he does well, and Harlequins is built around Don Brandt doing what he does really well. England isn't, so he can't. So he always doesn't. He always looks worse than perhaps necessarily his game shows. Sam Costello's having a similar thing with the way Wales is set up. It's set up almost more to make him look as bad as possible, not as good as possible. So Don Brandt is very good at those things. Like if someone, you've got a big, heavy duty tackler chopping people down, he gets over the ball and rips these things. Great. If you've got someone who's doing all the hard yard carrying, he can be in the wide channels and he can do fancy stuff.
When you have a guy who's built like a house and they have soft hands like that, that's what I'm looking for. That's one of the things I love in rugby.
Yeah.
The monster who can just kind of whisper it off. Love it. He had a hat trick in this one. He could have had 5 maybe, but he was just distributing at the end. He's like, you know what? Your turn. You can have one too. I don't need more than 3. I'm not greedy. It was great.
I'm always a fan of anyone who gives that last pass when they could have turned what was a probable try to a definite try. Because one, it just looks better. I love to see someone dotting down in the corner as opposed to sometimes a bashing over.
You're a proper rugby nose when someone scores a try and you think that was wrong. They scored that wrong.
Yeah, it's like when it's like you've gone all the way into the corner, made a difficult conversion when you could have just popped it, just lifted it ever so slightly, and the scrum after was steaming under the posts.
Yeah, or when it's a 2-on-1. When it's a 2-on-1 and they bump the defender off and then score, I'm like, that was wrong. You should have given it to the man outside you and let him score.
Unless the try that Werner Koch scored, he was free and clear, and he was like, wait, I haven't fended anyone yet. And he kind of reached back just to hit somebody in the face, like, by the way.
There's a try you need to see. It's Shane Williams against, it's either France or Argentina, where he could have just run and scored, but he beats like 7 defenders, and in the end, Martin Williams has to push him over the try line because he just keeps trying to beat men. I'll send you the link after. And Martin Williams just walks up behind him. Like there's like 4 Welsh players just stood there waiting for him to do something. Martin Williams just shoves him over the line because he just kept trying to go around more people.
See, if he had then dropped the ball because of that shove, it would have seemed.
What was the game happened this season, and you were convinced that it was going to be the first case of someone tackling their own player to kill the ball?
It was when Fiji kept trying to play against Wales. The clock was in the red, and they'd won the game, and Fiji tried to run out from their own 22.
It was crazy.
I thought the White Knight Lever was going to, or Caleb Munster was going to tackle their own player.
They really should have just gone to a shot of the coach literally having a heart attack at that moment.
Because I think Wales, if Wales had scored there, they could have won it. Like Wales could have, it wouldn't have happened, but like they could have in theory. Yeah, numerically they could have turned it into a draw, which would still be a win for Fiji. But it's always weird when you see stuff like that.
Every now and then that happens where a team has the ball and like the clock's red, and they can't get a losing bonus point. There's literally no good reason to keep playing, but they're like, well, we're not just going to give up, so we're going to keep playing. But it could get worse for them. It happens so often. I'm sorry?
It's more of a point of pride just to have like that, have the last say in the game. And think,
no,
so
but there's pride
some of the games
there's
I've
being
played
smart about the competition you're playing.
It's all silly anyway.
Sometimes your brain goes when you've done 8. Heck,
I do think sometimes it's that you're in the mode that you're playing, and you're not using your strategery at that point. You're just like, oh, I got the ball, let's go.
Lou probably said the best reason for like making sure your team's as fit as possible, and it's about making decisions when you're fatigued and making sure you make the right decision.
Well, those were all the action I caught. Did either of you have any other things you watched or little highlights that you wanted to mention from yesterday or the day before?
So I just want to say, so Cardiff started yet another young, basically a fetus, on the wing against the Cheetahs. It was a very nervy game, I'll be honest. So we had the wind against us the first half, and we went in 5-10 down, and it was looking quite bad. But then Tom Bowen, so young Welsh winger, so someone we've brought back who left Cardiff to go to, I believe, Millfield. So Bristol, basically a big private school in Bristol or Bath near there, and he came in and he just looked electric to the point of the Cheetahs resorted to trying to take his head off with every tackle.
Really?
Yeah, they couldn't contain him, so they thought they'd just swing an arm in his face every time. Which, for me, it's I hope you hope the players are right, but it's also a set of the only way they can stop this guy is illegally.
What was the final score in that one? Did you guys go through?
26-10 to Cardiff.
Nice. So that's a nice win for you.
It was a convincing win. Probably should have been higher watching the game. Like Cardiff threw away a lot of chances, but then Cheetahs had us under quite a lot of pressure, and they just kept dropping the ball, so we got let off a lot as well. So that probably should have gone to a very fundamentally stupid scoreline.
Where do the Cheetahs stay this year? Are they just like in a camper van? Like okay, guys.
Amsterdam. They play in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Is that right? Oh, that's right. They did that last year, but they still feel like the homeless team. It's very strange.
Yeah. And Van beat Gloucester for their first ever European victory.
Really?
Yeah.
Everyone's been talking about Gloucester this year, like it's for real, and it's just,
no, it's not.
Another one of those teams. I'm like, nope, no, I don't buy that. That's surprising though. Vaughan have been really struggling. I said that last week I was talking to Johnny and Craig and said their tour bus is headed straight back to the Pro D2, and then I realized it's probably the van. It's not really a bus.
Yeah.
Well, I said maybe that's the thing they've sort of gone with then, is because they're like, well, we're probably going to go down the top 14. We might as well have a go at the Challenge Cup and play in teams where we might actually be the big spenders in relation to like them up against the top 14 teams.
So we've kind of already
watching the highlights. Watching the highlights, Van were just it was a very much changed Gloucester team, but Van just totally physically dominant, which is similar.
Really
got. For all the
start of the season, the first couple of matches, Vaughan looked good this year, but then it pretty quickly became obvious that because they were losing the close ones and they were losing the ones they should, and it was like, oh, this is an express ticket right back down.
Yeah, sadly.
It seems like that's always the way, though. That bottom rung in the top 14 is tenuous at best.
Yeah, I think La Rochelle are pretty much the only team to really make a success of coming up. Bayonne, I suppose, came up recently and are now doing well. So yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult.
Harley, have you ever seen a game in France? Have you gone to one of these club games?
Not a French top 14 game. I did go to a World Cup game in the
I went to
Australia World Cup game. The last time I felt good about a Wales performance.
Nice.
And but no, it is somewhere on my list. I have been tempted I was tempted to go to one of the away European fixtures but weirdly, small child does not want to go.
It looks like I'll get to go to one in May.
Oh,
so it's undecided yet, but you'll be the first to know.
Nice. I know that's on the list. I'm curious. We kind of already touched on it, like. As recently as last week, I was like, yes, the European Cups. I love this. I was making the point to Craig and Johnny that there's just no equivalent for this in America. Like the Patriots don't stop playing in the middle of the year and go, oh, let's go up to Canada and play the Toronto Argonauts in this separate tournament. Like there is no such thing in the United States. So the fact that I get to see teams and matchups that I never get to see, having Black Line in there, having the Cheetahs in there, it makes this tournament, both of these tournaments, so fascinating for me. And I always get annoyed when people complain about the Challenge Cup because I'm like, when else are you going to see these games? Like, it's so magical. But then, somehow this week, even looking at the list ahead, I was like, oh, what is the game I'm looking forward to? And I had a hard time finding it. How are you all feeling about the EPCR Cups this year? Good? Bad?
Yeah, I said it on my Friday show, or that comes out on Thursday night. I'm treating it as a break. That's why I'm not very knowledgeable about a lot of the games that you're asking me about, is because rugby's so non-stop, and I'm struggling to get excited about the European Cup this year, either of them. So I'm treating it as a bit of a break from rugby, to be honest. I think it's, as a competition, I think it's losing its way quite badly, to be honest.
Harley, on a scale of Tom Shanklin the player to Tom Shanklin the pundit, how are you enjoying the competition this year?
Tom Shanklin the stand-up comedian.
Oh, that's grim.
It has. So it just smacks of we don't want any jeopardy. We want to make sure that Toulouse, Leinster, Bordeaux, Leicester. I mean, it says how much that they want the big name teams and the big English teams to go through, because the Premiership's so hat stand that you could, you don't know if the likes of Bath and Leicester, who are big European powerhouses, will finish first and second or seventh or eighth. That they've made it so that 8 teams go through, 8 teams in a 10-team league go through, and it's too saturated. And and it just doesn't seem balanced. But they go, well, it's fine for it to be more difficult to make it in if you're a Welsh or Italian or Scottish team, because ultimately the EPCR was made by the French and English clubs as a big fuck you to Sky. And it's just like, and then you see these things, and it's the round of 16, which are a bit there. The pools are all a bit like there's no jeopardy, like in the way that the old format was, because you had the 3 weekends. By the last weekend, you'd know if you're basically out, so you wouldn't try. Now we get people phoning it in from the start because you don't need to wait, because you're probably going to make it in.
That's what
as long as you're not completely garbage.
Yeah. So it's funny, this week Lee and Josh on the Blood and Mud podcast, they made a point I just hadn't thought of. I feel like you guys you've thought about this for ages. It really just stuck with me. They pointed out in the Heineken Cup, you've got 8 English clubs, you've got 8 French clubs, and then the other 8, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Italy, and South Africa, all have to fight for those 8 spots. Like, surely there aren't 8 English clubs better than, like, Ulster or Stormers, right? Like, the ratio seems
there
off.
Absolutely are not. So, yeah.
Hugh, how do they fix that?
They need to reduce the number of teams in it. And, the thing about the EPCR is, as to Harley's point, it's he said that the English and the French is basically run by the English, because the English have got, I think, 2 seats on the board. So they've got one through PRL and they've got one through the RFU. The URC's got 1 seat, and the unions that make up the URC have got none. I think Italy might have 1, but so all the URC nations are represented by 1 seat, and the English are represented by 2, which is why most of the finals happen in England. So that's kind of the point of it. So they need to reduce the number of teams in it. I would think about, like, you get in it if you finish at least in the top half of your league, and everyone else just plays friendlies on those weekends or has a break. It's up to them. It's not.
Well, they're not afraid to tinker with the format, because they seemingly do it almost every year. Do you foresee changes to make it better, or are they kind of spiraling down the funnel right now?
Well, if a South African team gets to a semi-final, they'll change the format. I promise you that.
Any final thoughts on the European weekend?
I quite like the Challenge Cup. I find the Challenge Cup slightly more, other than the Champions Cup teams dropping down. I'd bin that, but I find the Challenge Cup more interesting, because actually, if you look at the relative strength of the teams in the Challenge Cup, I'd argue it's a much more competitive tournament than the Champions Cup.
Yeah,
because
it does seem like all the teams are trying every week.
You can probably pick who the top 8. You could probably you could go through the 4 pools. You could pick the 4 teams going through, and you could probably pick who's going to make the quarterfinals, who's going to make the semi-finals, and you'd be about right for the semi-finals, final, and the eventual winner. Whereas the Challenge Cup, I think, is actually a bit more up in the air. You might see. And I think teams relatively about the same strength.
It's the last chance saloon. A lot of these teams are like, well, the reason we're here is because we're doing so badly in our competition, but we can stick it to this team. Like, I find that same thing. It's really exciting that way. Of course, then all of a sudden the losers from the Champions Cup come down and they're like, get out of the way. So, but I mean, Sharks weren't bothered last year, I suppose.
I actually, that's one thing I've got to look at. I'm pretty sure since they've had this format, because we're sort of to year 3 of this, I don't think any of the Champions Cup drop-downs have won.
I think you're right. Didn't happen
because
last
I think
year.
They start off with an away fixture in the round of 16.
Before. Yeah, and I think at that point,
I know Sale have dropped down twice and
let's get back to the other competition. If they're out of the Champions Cup, they're a little like, okay, time to send the kids.
The other thing I don't like about particularly with the Challenge Cup, is because you've got that inequality of which leagues, so there's only the 2 English teams. For the URC side, you're playing games you've already played. Like, do you really want to see Ospreys Lions or Dragons Lions again? Do you want to see Scarlet's? I'll say that Scarlet's Edinburgh could be quite tasty, actually, quite a few times they've played. But we've had Cardiff Connacht, which is a game I love. But the thing I loved about the Challenge Cup was playing a French or an English team. Everyone talks about how great the Anglo-Welsh is. I think the reason people love the Anglo-Welsh games is because they'd only happen on European weekends or friendlies, and it was the scarcity. That's that was exciting.
Should
And I
we
think
have
if you
more?
did it week in, week out, it'd be boring.
Should we have more invitational teams in the Challenge Cup?
No,
Or-
God,
or-
no. There's too many teams
I
already.
think we need less. I
Oh.
think we need less teams, even if it means some teams in some leagues don't qualify for Europe at all. Because at least
Yeah.
then everyone's talking about lack of jeopardy. Well, if you sort of say, I don't know, say top 5 go through to, we'll just talk with the USA. Say top 5, top 6 make it to top level of Europe. Then the next 4 go through the Challenge Cup, and then if you're below the 6 below that, you go organised friendlies that weekend. Or alternatively, instead of having 2 competitions to focus on, you focus just on your league. And then actually it's a way to incentivize those lower teams. It gives them a chance to focus more, whereas the bigger teams, they've got to battle 2 fronts. And that might be a bit of a leveler.
There's
That is
42
basically.
There's 42 teams in it already. If you're trying to invite more, you're really scratching around trying to find people to invite. There's really not many people who could be competitive in the Challenge Cup who aren't already in it. So, no, I agree with Harley. We need less teams, not more.
Both finals are in Cardiff this year, if I'm right. Both of you have the ability to theoretically drive over there and go see those. Are either of you planning to be on hand for the finals?
Could well do. My mate went to. It's a sore subject. I had tickets to go last year, but I couldn't go. But my mate. So I got tickets with my mate, and my mate went, and he was like, "It's in Cardiff next year. Should we go to that?" And so, and he's not a rugby fan. But he went to this game, and he messaged me like, "That was really good. Can we go to the next one?" So yes, probably. Well, not probably, but there's a good chance that I'll go to the one in Cardiff.
There'll be some
is it
wangling,
is it the Challenge Cup on a Friday and the Champions on a Saturday? Is that it? Is it 2 days or is it? Okay, it's not. I kind of wish they would put them on the same day, but I don't know.
No, I quite like the 2 nights because you make a weekend of it. I was in 2018 for the 2018 one when it was in Bilbao. I was this close. I was this close to going, but I just couldn't find anywhere to stay that time. I then found out. So when I knew sort of like a 4th degree of separation, but knew it was like, we could have given you a ride in our camper van. You could have crashed there as long as you had a sleeping bag, and I was, I don't know where to go. But yeah, Cardiff's a fantastic.
Just put up your thumb and hope that Andy Friend drives by and be like, "Oh, pick me up."
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, Cardiff's always a good weekend, particularly on rugby weekends. So I'd definitely consider it. But
I'm such a nerd. Like I think it was right at the end of the competition last year. All of a sudden, the advertising started. Cardiff next year. Go to Cardiff. Hey, buy tickets now. And I was like, what would that look like? So I'm such a dork. I like to Google map the venue, and then I search for the restaurants and pubs in the general vicinity. And I'm like, if I went, where could I go and have a drink before that game? And there's a lot of options in Cardiff.
Yeah, there are.
I would say City Arms.
Yeah,
that is the good one.
Again, we don't have that in the United States, and there is no place called the Blank Arms, and I am immediately drawn to that. That's exactly where I would go.
Cardiff is the best location of any stadium that I've been to.
I love. You can basically fall out. Yes, there are many problems with it. There are many problems with anyone, but I think with Cardiff, when your problems are there's too many places to go drinking afterwards, and then there's so many people there that you've got to wait a bit longer for your train, so you can stay and have another drink. I think they're pretty all right problems to have.
As Avon said on The Wire, that's what you would call one of them good problems. Well, the fact that the Christian high holiday is nigh upon us also means we're gearing up for what the URC has started calling their festive derbies. It's one of my favorite traditions. I notice none of them are actually scheduled for December 25th. As far as I can recall, they never are. Here in the United States, there's multiple NBA games on the day itself, and the NFL has actually decided to horn in the last couple of years as well. But in the world of rugby, as far as I can tell, playing on the actual holiday is strictly embargoed. Yeah. Huw, if there was a URC match on December 25th, would you be watching?
No, I couldn't. I would be bound by family duties. It would be on at the same time as Christmas dinner. So obviously for you guys in America, you have Thanksgiving dinner. We do that on Christmas. So it would be...
But to be fair, there's 3 football games on Thanksgiving every single year.
Okay, so it's just not something that we do. Some people don't like there being games on Sunday, even though no one's actually a Christian. So
And arguably, it's better for the so-called community game fans who say that they don't like the fact that the game's on a Sunday, but they also don't like it being on 3 o'clock when the community game's on.
yeah,
They just don't want it to be played, really.
yeah, they did. People use all sorts of excuses not to go to games, but no, I wouldn't watch it if it was on Christmas. I struggle to get to watch them when they're on Boxing Day because I normally get roped into something family related. And the whole
you can just bring your family. Be like, hey, family, guess what? It's the Christmas game.
No, that's not going to go.
Can you imagine taking a toddler to a rugby match?
Someone
who does not want to sit still for anything that isn't
game when he was 5, 4. It was too loud, for sure.
Yeah. So no. Of course, the Scarlets one is on the 21st this year. So that probably works out better in terms of being able to watch it on TV. It is a tradition if it's on Boxing Day to go to it. So families I can only speak for Wales' point of view, but families will go to the game to actually watch it as a group, which is why the attendances on Festive Derbies are so much higher than any other time of year, like literally twice as high. Because it is a bit of a tradition at that time of year. But if it was on Christmas Day, it would be a no-go. They did used to play games. I remember, I think it was Phil Bennett told a story about how Llanelli back in the day played a game on Christmas Day, and he asked the coach not to pick him because it was back in the amateur days, and his girlfriend's family had arranged to go for a meal out on Christmas Day. And he said, "Can you not pick me for the game, please? I've got to go with my fiance's family for dinner." So that's what they did.
Wow.
That was back in the days when they play on Saturday and Tuesday.
Ooh. I don't know if you've heard any of the kerfuffle. There's midweek games in the MLR this year. The players are not happy about it. A lot of people are very unhappy about it. I kind of am too. I'm like, am I really making that trip on a Tuesday? Like, I get up at 5. It's rough, but haven't heard much about it since then. We've got 2 rounds of derbies on the way, including home and away fixtures for the Scottish teams and the Italian teams, some spicy matchups for the Irish and South African teams. Harley, if you look at the fixture list, which matchups outside of Wales are you looking forward to for these festive derbies?
I'm a big fan of the 1872 Cup. Yeah. I do like those games just because it's basically they use it as a Scotland trial. I mean, I know you get almost as many Argentinian players playing in there as that you do Scottish players, but I always find them really excited. I found it used to quite like the Italian derby, but that very rapidly became very one-sided Benetton way. Although the way both sides respectively have been playing this season, that could be a bit more interesting.
Yeah,
and I mean, South African games, it usually just depends which one's turning up and which South African sides decided to be hat stand this week. So that's always a fun guessing game.
Huw, any of these fixtures sort of jump off the page for you?
1872 Cup for me. They're playing it at Hampden Park for the Glasgow leg as well, which is a big deal.
I don't know anything about that. Where is that?
It's in Glasgow, so it's the football ground. And so it's obviously a big job to sell all the tickets because let's be honest about it. Glasgow and Edinburgh don't have huge fan bases, but from all I'm told they are shifting tickets for it, which is great to see. It is quite funny as well because on the Premier Sports advert, which is quite good for the game, they get the players to do smack talk back and forth, and none of the Glasgow players have Scottish accents. It's quite funny.
We're not starting on that. I mean, neither of you has a Welsh accent, to be fair.
No, true.
I have worked very hard to round mine off, though, to be fair.
Oh, is that right?
I went to very formal English when I went, mainly because the Barry accent is it sounds. The best way to describe it is almost as you can tell that Barry became filled up in Londoners when the docks opened to ship out coal, because it's probably a bit more close to Cockney. It's sort of like a weird fusion between Welsh and Cockney, the actual Barry accent. It's not like Gavin and Stacey at all.
Well, I'm a big Ken Follett fan, and there's a great voice actor named John Lee who does most of his books, and they always talk about. This probably isn't true anymore. This is it's set back World War I era, and he makes the comment that the Welsh love to use the phrase "by here" and when they could just say "here," so it's
by here.
Come sit over by here.
Come by here. Yeah,
Is that still a thing? Do people still say
absolutely.
bye?
Yeah. It's a giveaway of a Welsh person if they say that.
So as for the Welsh teams, there's a. By the way, we've already kind of mentioned it. These are some of my favorite weekends. There's just, especially for the Welsh derbies, there's something extra. These teams really hunker down and concentrate on these weekends. The fans come out, like you already said. It always ends up meaning a lot for positioning on the table as well, because it's like this is a chance to every team I think thinks we can go 2-0 during these couple of weeks, and that's going to make a huge difference for in terms of points. Both your teams are kind of on that list. Like next Saturday, Huw, your Scarlets make the arduous journey to the Swansea.com to face Ospreys. I think there's something wrong with the Ospreys at this moment. I think you could absolutely nab this one on the road. What's your thinking heading into this match?
Yeah, the form guide says that Scarlets are favourites, but as I say to Harley always, in Welsh derbies, the wrong team always wins. It's always the one that is out of form. Welsh teams love to screw each other's seasons up. So, form goes out the window in derbies is what they always say, and I think that's true. But yeah, this is so it's
but
different.
That makes it more exciting, right? That's one of the reasons I find these 2 weeks like, whoo, they're spicy.
Yeah, so Harley's going to talk about Cardiff Dragons. I'm sure he's spoken about it plenty of times. But there's not really an edge to that. There's an edge to Scarlets Ospreys. We don't like each other. We do not get on. So yeah, it's a big deal, that game.
Well, Huw, yours is on the 21st, but Harley, you have to wait until Boxing Day for Cardiff to visit Rodney Parade to face an underwhelming Dragons team. I feel like this one's yours for the taking, yeah?
Yes, but it's usually the game. I very open about this. My co-host on Rap, Jamie, who does the Dragons there as well, we both agree this is possibly one of the worst derbies, not in Welsh, but rugby. It just is a terrible. It's always a terrible game. No one likes it. In Cardiff now, if we win this, it'll be 20 straight league wins, and and basically, so it would be over 10 years since Dragons had last beaten Cardiff at all, which was 2015 Challenge Cup. It's becoming so one-sided, even in games where Cardiff should hands down lose. Don't get me wrong, we've won plenty where we were definitely the better side. It's rare, but it does happen. We somehow always pull away of winning. And I think there's just something so deeply ingrained in the Dragons' minds now that they just can't win. Watch them absolutely blow us out of the water now this week on Boxing Day. But yeah, it's almost not interesting anymore. It's as bad as that is to say about a game.
As somebody who loves rugby and the genre of fantasy, it kills me that the Dragons are terrible. I really want there to be a good team called the Dragons. It really feels like that should be the case.
I don't even think, like in rugby league, I think we've got the Catalan. There's a team called the Dragons in rugby league, and they're not particularly good either.
I bet their jerseys are fantastic, though.
Hopefully. Although saying I'm not a big fan of the current Dragons European jersey.
No. Oh, but I think I forgot to say the Ospreys kit this weekend. That blue. Have we ever seen that before? I like that. That was a nice looking outfit.
I think the idea is it's supposed to be a homage to Bridgend, because Bridgend's the Ravens typically play in a blue kit. But I personally think they're just trying to emulate the true best region in Wales, which is Cardiff.
They're trying to be blue and black. Yeah, well, tell us what colour Cardiff's change kit is. So the thing about Bridgend is it's actually also in Cardiff, so they are trying to emulate.
It is a CF, which is Cardiff postcode. So obviously you have zip code to draw numbers, but in the UK it's 2 letters, which is around a certain area. So CF is Cardiff, and then anything around Swansea is like SW, Newport's NP. I don't think they actually have the postal service out that far west, but
no.
They just, according to you, they just stick all the notes.
Have to write a long-winded apology after this episode and put it up on Twitter. Only by the way, for some reason, the Welsh regions are then all off until New Year's Day, when you both get to play at home. Harley, your team is hosting the Ospreys, and Huw, you're welcoming the Dragons to Parky Scarlets. Why the extra wait? Why do the other teams play before New Year's Day and the Welsh teams are playing later?
Tradition.
I think it's
only
just
5
because
days.
it's tradition.
Oh, okay.
It's only a week. It's only 6 days. It's a 6-day turnaround. Well, I mean, it's a bit longer for like Scarlets and Ospreys have huge rest periods. So, but and then it's 6-day turnaround then for the Boxing Day. So it's usually within that week. That's traditional. A few years ago, back in Pro 14 times, or maybe even be with Pro 12, they did try and just do it on the Saturdays either side of Christmas, and they got a lot of complaints from fans because, again, Boxing Day tradition. It's always been a traditional day for a game, which I find weird that they want to do that because, again, a lot of clubs have a traditional match on Boxing Day as well. So the team I've been playing for this season, Old Penarthians, they have an annual thing on Boxing Day against Penarth, which is like, so Old Penarthians sort of split off. The team we're closest I am in Devon, they have a big game on Boxing Day as well. And it's this sort of traditional thing. And if there's one thing we've learned about Wales, they love sexism and tradition.
It should be emblazoned in the badge on the tweed jacket. It is the only reason I thought it was weird, though, because New Year's Day is smack in the middle of the week on a Wednesday. Aren't all these teams back in Europe like on Saturday, right after that?
No, so there's an extra week before.
There is.
So
there's a layoff.
You get a big long rest before that. Yeah, so it's the second weekend.
That's good. You know what? They work hard. They deserve it. Any final thoughts on the holidays, the festive derbies, or anything else that we might have skipped over just now?
I'm going to actually be going to I'm going to be taking my wife's nephew. Well, I suppose technically my step nephew as well. I'm going to be taking him to a game because he was a big fan of Lewis Rees-Zammit, so he's sort of fallen in with the Gloucester thing, and extra Chiefs are hosting Gloucester.
I was going to say, you're taking him to
so we're going to take him there.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's a hell of a thing for a thing. No, but Chiefs are hosting Gloucester on Sunday the 29th, so we're taking him to go see some live rugby, which I'm looking forward to. As I said, so not being, I always seem to miss it because I spend the week in Wales and then I come home for the weekend, so I don't really want to leave my daughter for.
Wait, you're gonna be seeing a game in Exeter?
Yeah, we're going to see the game in Exeter, but I'll be firmly supporting Gloucester.
And how are you going to get him to not do the tomahawk chant and all that crap that goes on at
Because he's been brought up correctly.
Thank you.
And as I said, he's a staunch Gloucester fan.
Poor guy. I have developed a little holiday game for us. I kind of gave it away as we were getting ready to record, but that's not necessarily time to prep. We were talking ahead of time. I was like, I can give you the whole thing and you can prep the crap out of it, or we can just...
Yeah, and we said, yes, please, and then David didn't give it to us.
No, you said either way.
You said yes, please. I said, I'm ready for anything.
Yeah. You said,
which is yes, please.
I didn't mean to withhold that. I thought the general vibe was whichever way you want is fine, and we don't care.
That's right. So you're in cahoots with Harley. It's fine.
Yes, we've been secretly texting. This game that I've designed, it's called the Fourfold Fantasy. The goal is to make your team into the best version of itself. Each of you is going to have the chance to add players to your current team to improve that team after adding 4 players over 4 rounds. And then at the end, we'll vote on who has done the most to make their team a contender. We're going to start with this sort of specific and then expand to the general over the 4 rounds. Harley, are you excited right now?
Yeah, actually, although I'm a bit gutted because I had prepped some stuff because you, in the original script, we were going to talk about Christmas traditions, but let's get on with the game.
Oh, I thought I gave us a chance at the beginning. What's the tradition that we missed? You could have put this in the things we missed segment just now, too.
I suppose. Yeah. So basically, I was just thinking back of things as, at the moment with the new family, we're trying to do our own traditions, but I was remembering stuff that we did when I was a child at Christmas. So one of them, my mum would get wrapping paper and she'd paper over the door to the living room, basically partially so that we couldn't go and sneak in and have a look.
Yeah.
Before they were ready, but 2 also just the fun of us having to run through these bits of wrapping paper. But the reason I really remembered it is because my 1 year, my poor brother, because he was the youngest, he'd always go in first. He was the youngest and smallest, so he'd go in because there'd be paper left for the rest of us. My mum had forgotten to open the living room door. So he's really excited and goes full pat and just bounces off the door. It also, which to be fair, explains an awful lot about my brother now.
Hugh, have you run into any doors as a tradition in your family?
No, not really so much any major traditions in my family. We're re-navigating it at the moment because obviously me and my girlfriend live together, and our parents live quite close to each other, but most of our grandparents are still around as well. So it's all very like, okay, on this day we'll go here, and then on this morning we'll go here, and then we can see these people on the same day, and then come up and down, and then we obviously need to worry about the cat and things. So it's a couple of years of sorting out logistics at the moment for us.
Our plan was to go down to Texas where my partner's family is, but because my job is so new, I don't have time to take off yet. And the 26th is a work day at my work, so but fortunately she's going to stay home for the actual day on the 25th, and then she and my son were going to head off to Texas on Boxing Day and leave me here for a couple of lonely days, but it'll be okay. So at least we get the day together, and my parents are still around, so that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Same with you. Me and my partner used to do that quite a lot, alternating back and forth, and we ended up spending Christmas one year in a Premier Inn because we could, there was no room in any of our families, and so we were sort of there, and then we had to back. So this year we've gone for, we're staying at home. If you really want to come see the little one,
that is the best thing.
Where we live,
little one is like, it just logistically doesn't make sense for me to go to you. Anyone who wants to see me over this time, you got to come here.
But yeah, we're looking at starting a new tradition, which is because we're going to stay at home. Is I'm going to smoke the Christmas turkey.
Ooh,
same for someone who's think to take it. So yeah, I'm big into my barbecue and stuff. So that's going to be my big project for the.
We went to the on Friday night. We went to the Commonwealth Shakespeare version of the Christmas Carol in Boston. It was beautiful. A brand new thing for my son.
The Shakespeare version of the Christmas Carol.
It's not a Shakespeare version of it. The company is the Commonwealth Shakespeare Project. They perform Shakespeare on Boston Common. Shakespeare is their wheelhouse, but they also do other productions. And this is their.
I see. I was thinking you Americans get a lot of stuff wrong, but that's taking the cake.
Yes, the Christmas Carol, written by W. something Shakespeare. No, it was a beautiful production though. They musicalized it, and it was gorgeous. And my son was blown away by the production. So. And by the way, I am going to miss being in Texas for Christmas because it's freezing as hell where I live. And going to Texas, boom, you're wearing a T-shirt outside on Christmas. It's great. Anyway, round one. For our purposes here, in case any listeners are unclear, which seems unlikely, Harley, your team is Cardiff, and Huw, your team is Scarlets. I'm going to flip an imaginary coin. Bing! Oh, I see Huw has won first choice. Huw, for your first pick... For the opening round, you can select any player from Harley's team, Cardiff, to add to your Scarlets to make your Scarlets just a little bit better. Who are you going to pluck out of that squad to inject into your own team to give them a little bit of extra juice?
Well, I'm quite happy with how the Scarlets pack is going this year, and I'm not sure I would take any of Cardiff's pack over any of Scarlet's pack. So it would have to be a back. Now, I think Ben Thomas is Cardiff's best back, but I'm also quite happy with how Scarlet's centres are going. So whilst I think Ben Thomas is doing better than any of our centres, I don't think any of our centres deserve to be dropped. So that kind of leaves half-backs and back three. And I think out of all of them, I think I would probably go Cam Winnett. I think full-back is a position that's a bit in flux for us. We don't really have anyone nailing it down. We've got players who can play there, but play on the wing.
Plus, his name is Winnett.
Yes, exactly. So I think probably I would take Cam Winnett from Cardiff to play fullback for the Scarlets.
Yes, Cam Lose It would have been a much more dubious choice.
Yeah.
Far more apropos for Welsh Rugby.
Harley, same thing. It's your chance to, by the way, really good choice, Huw. I like that. Harley, same thing. You can select a Scarlets player to add a little something special to help out your former Blues.
There's a couple of ways I could go with that. So the obvious answer with Ray Lilo being 112 years old and still going strong, getting someone in the 13 jersey to cover would be great. And and Hugh says they don't want to drop this starting centre, so Joe Roberts be lonely. But I'll probably go with the pack, and I think where we really struggle is, having more aggressive locks. So Josh McNally gets very tired after about 60 minutes, and we lose a bit of physicality there. So I'd probably be looking at someone like Alex Craig. I think so. Just to do lots of grunt work. I think we've got plenty of flash. It's about that underlying just punch for me.
Yeah, that's a good choice. I think that's what I would recommend for Cardiff as well.
Huw, if you had known that was his choice, would you have had to pivot and take somebody from the pack?
No.
Well, Harley, we're sticking with you. We're doing this snake draft style, as we like to say here. Your options are a little bit wider for round 2. You can select any player from any of the Welsh regions. That doesn't mean you can't pick the Scarlets. It means you have 3 teams to pick from instead of just the one. Who are you going to add to make your team just a little tiny bit better?
There's so many. Do I have to pick a player, or can I go for a coach?
Boy, I have to check the official rules. It says you can take a coach.
I'm going to go with Duncan Jones from the Ospreys, just because I think his work as a scrum coach speaks for itself, and we could always be a bit better in that area.
Huw, your move.
Well, this is fun for a Scarlets fan because most of the other regions take players from the Scarlets normally, so I can take one back. So obviously, if I was to do that from the Ospreys, I could take Steph Thomas or who else? Jack Morgan, or
it's your last chance to take Tipperick.
Kieran Hardy or Owen Williams or Ryan Condon.
Derby Lake's originally from that area.
I can't believe his name hasn't come up yet.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't take a Dragon. I'm sorry, Dragons. Although I do think Shane Lewis Hughes has been very good, and I do rate a few Dragons players. I probably would take Dewey Lake, to be honest. I think our game plan isn't all about getting over the gain line, but I think to have that option would be decent. I don't think our hooker options are particularly bad, but I do think that Dewey Lake is the best hooker in Wales. So I would probably take Dewey Lake or Jack Morgan. They're the obvious two from the Ospreys. So I'll probably take Dewey Lake, I think.
Okay. Is it Dewey Lake or Dowie Lake?
Dewi.
So for our penultimate round, the options have expanded to the entirety of the URC. Huw, I'm going to rattle on a little bit here to give you time to think about it. Given the entire field of all 16 teams in the URC, and you can stay within Wales if you want, there's no rule against it, who would you magically add to your beloved Scarlets team to give them that extra edge, to push them over the top? Who are you looking for in the URC to give you a little bit of help?
Is there another round after this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That changes who I would pick. It's tough. I'm really emotionally invested in our team at the moment. So I don't really like the idea of dropping any of them. I mean,
so you can always go down the coaching route.
Yes.
No, that's true. I mean, Leinster and Sharks are the two obvious teams that you'd look to poach from. Because of who they've got.
I was in my little notes. I was expecting the word Etzebeth to come up at least once.
Yeah, but this is the thing, Like I said, I don't really like the idea of dropping it. I think Etzebeth would be a great pick for Cardiff, obviously, for the same reasons as Harley gave already for Alex Craig. But I don't. And obviously, there's loads of Sharks and Leinster players who are objectively better than players that Scarlets have. But I like the Scarlets players, so I don't want to drop them. So I would maybe go for another 10, an experienced 10 somewhere or other. Who would be one of those?
Am I feeling Mani coming up? Although he's
Mani did pop into my head just now because no one loves him down in South Africa, so he can come to Llanelli and we'll love him.
Exactly. Although
so you don't need to.
They better have a good hospital.
Kicks a goal. So too many tries.
I feel like we need a really old-headed 10, and there's not many of those about.
Most of them have gone to France, to be fair.
Yeah. So I would probably go. I'm really struggling. I'm trying to think of an experienced 10 that's somewhere in the URC, and there's really not many. Thomas Albanose from Benetton.
Oh, wow. Deep cut. Oh, that's a good one. Nice. Harley, your turn. You got the entire URC. What position are you looking to fill? And can we help you think of somebody for that role?
I'm just thinking about like with the issues that the current Cardiff squad have at the moment. So basically, we're very weak at centre and the back three, which is unusual for Cardiff due to injuries. I mean, part of me just thinks of basically as he's just a younger version of the already young Mason Grady of Max Page, but I don't think I'd go for that. I think particularly for the versatility, it'd be nice to just go for the actual baller money ball of Geordie Barrett. Just because I just want to see if we get as much grief for signing Geordie Barrett as Leinster got.
You would have fans in Wales who checkbook Charlie's, but
I think I'd probably go Geordie Barrett, but actually I'm thinking the one player I really really want, and I'm going to go for it down to South Africa because I just think he's so good as a player, and I think he does get outshone by some of the Springbok Patriots a lot. It's Makazole Mapimpi. Just because I think he's the exact sort of winger that particularly Jockey likes. Runs at everything, got fantastic speed, very physical. Can come in off some of these first phase moves.
The Geordie Barrett thing just absolutely cracked me up. It's like, hey, you signed with this incredible historic team in Dublin. It's like, oh, by the way, come on over here. We were joking last week. It's like, imagine if he signed that contract but didn't realize it was for Connacht instead of Leinster. It's like, hey, I get to go to... I'm freezing.
Slightly less reason in Cardiff. And we were in the very first Champions Cup final.
That's true. Okay, it is the final round. Harley, we're sticking with you. You can now go worldwide. You've got All Blacks at your disposal. You have Springboks who are currently playing in Japan. You've got Flying Fijians. You could pick Greg Peterson from the United States. The world is your oyster.
I could go pick some of my poor beloved Dallas Jackals who are in need of employment.
They would be very happy to have a job right now.
I said I would love to see Sam Gola in blue and black. But for me, it's a very personal one. I want to bring him back. I want to bring him back from across the bridge, and I'm going to dip into Gloucester. And again, thinking about where we're struggling, I'd like to bring Max Llewellyn back to the blue and black.
Nice.
A whole of club rugby to choose from, and you've gone Max Llewellyn.
Yep, because that's how highly I rate him. He's already played under Jockey. He's already worked with Ben Thomas. That's the centre partnership that will win the URC.
That is the most.
It will absolutely not win the URC.
I take it, Huw, that you are not going to pick somebody with an incredibly Welsh last name.
No, I'm going to pick Antoine Dupont. I would like him to come and play for the Scarlets.
I had it in my script I was expecting neither of you to pick him and give me a chance to be like, guys, he was sitting right there.
No, I'm picking Antoine Dupont. He makes the Scarlets better. Yeah, I think he really works for our game plan as well. We ran a move against Black Lion today where Gareth Davis wrapped around, and I was like, that's a Toulouse move. I know. I got to speak to a Scarlets player the other day, and he was saying that Dwayne Peel encourages them to watch loads of teams. And I don't know if I ever get to speak to Dwayne Peel, I'll ask him directly. I think that Dwayne Peel has pinched a few ideas from Toulouse. Now, obviously, we don't do them as well as Toulouse, do we? Because we're the Scarlets. But I think that Dupont would take us to the next level. And that sounds stupid and obvious because he's the best player in the world. But I think that would be fantastic. I would have picked if we weren't allowed to do this, I would have picked a 9 sooner. So I was saving Dupont for this round because, I think we would be a very, very, very good team if we had Dupont.
I'm very disappointed neither of you picked Alona Mar, by the way. She was right there on the table just waiting.
Let's stay out of that debate.
I'll pick Alcal before I pick Alona Mar.
By the way, how can I not go online and purchase an Al calendar? Like, I even
you can buy an Alcal mug. I know
because
I've seen the
mug. I was going to say our friend Leslie at Missile Panda on various social medias. She has some Alcal ones along with some absolutely fantastic ones.
Leslie's mugs
Rachel Malcolm,
are a highlight of almost every week. But I actually I was like, what would it cost me to go to like Shutterfly and make an Al calendar? and but like I don't know. I felt weird looking for pictures. Like I don't know. It was a strange process.
made
I was like,
Ask friend of the pod, Julia. She's got a collection.
well, that my idea was that I would make one and send it to her as a surprise gift, but she's probably way ahead of me.
I did a Brit on Thunder video edit the other day, and Alex Callender's really good. She played for us last year, and like all of the highlights were just her. And I was like, wow, like once you watch it back after going like, and now Alex Callender's about to do something. She's unbelievably good. Unbelievably good.
So that's part of...
She makes the women's Lions tour in the match day squad, like the test squad, I think.
Yeah, she's amazing.
So that's the Celtic Challenge, is it called? Because it is completely invisible here. Like we have the very limited. It is.
Yeah.
Oh, dip! I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah, so it's free.
Holy cow! There. Wow. Okay. Note to self: look at stuff.
Yep.
Okay, your teams have been vastly improved. Huw, who did a better job? Whose team would you rather have right now? Harley with his 3 players and a coach, or your own?
I think Harley's improved his team more, but Harley undermined himself drastically with the Max Llewellyn thing.
It's a heart over head pick. I'm not gonna lie.
So I've definitely won because I've got Dupont now. I've got Verfafita and Anton Dupont.
It's a good argument, Harley. Are you
yeah,
gonna make your case here?
Can you do it in the middle of March in Uster-Munnock?
I think you used that line exactly on the wrap this week. It was great.
Yeah, for the women's rugby treehouses, I think he's slowly trying to change the name to.
Well,
as having rap and rap is a bit confusing.
Well, as the great and benevolent moderator for this game that I completely made up, I have to go with Huw. I think you're right, but it was the Antoine Dupont thing. Like, I mean, how can any team with Antoine Dupont not be the better team compared to the other team, right? Like, it's a painful truth for
because Cardiff can do miracles like that. Because during the COVID years, we made Toulouse look very silly before they made us look very silly because our PE teacher and groundskeeper coming off the bench were not the same quality as Toulouse.
Do either of you want to change one of your picks and make it Dan Fish?
Dan Fish is eternal. He is residing with all of us who support Cardiff.
Exactly. He was miraculous during those weird COVID times as well. Guys, this has been so much fun. I love the fact that we've been friends for, I think it's 2 years plus.
I've only been doing Pirate for 1.5 years, so I don't think it has. I think it's been a year.
Was it only a year?
Yeah, I started.
We've been talking.
Oh well, screw you guys.
We've been talking lots of because we did some previews.
Yes,
I think during the
because Harley, you and I talked before your daughter was born. I think you were an expectant daddy the first time I talked to you, and now she's walking around. I've seen videos.
Yeah, walking around, talking, brilliant. Her toy of the weekend. So my mum bought these cardboard stacking blocks, and they've got the numbers 1 to 10, all your letters. A lovely little Christmas tree.
And by the way, I'm really good at that stuff. I think I have it down by now.
What, 1 to 10, yeah. Wait, thankfully I can get up to 10. But she was just going there and going 10, 9, 8, and doing it, and then counting up and counting down. That's basically been her weekend, and
nice.
Yes, great.
The line I heard early was you spend the first couple of years saying, "Why don't they talk? Why don't they walk?" And then you spend the rest of their life saying, "Sit down and shut up."
Yeah, but this is definitely a sort of position we're in at the moment.
Guys, any final thoughts? What are you looking forward to over the next couple of weeks most? Is it a game? Is it a tradition? Is it being with your families? What's exciting you for the next couple of weeks as we head towards the Yule?
Time off work. That time off work.
Harley, do you get time off work?
Yeah, so I'm gonna have 12. So my last day is gonna be Friday, and then I'm not packing until the 2nd. So
nice.
Yeah, looking forward to that time, and I know I'm not gonna have to drive anywhere particularly fast because we're gonna stay local, and just actually spend some time with the bubba. Maybe we'll go for a walk in the nice Devonshire countryside.
Is it likely to
Weather
snow?
might not be great, but
where,
it's still good
where
walking.
either of you are? Is it likely to snow? Like, as a kid, you dream of the white Christmas, and the statistics don't bear it out. Even where I live, where we think it's going to be snowy, it almost is never a white Christmas where I live. What are the odds that you're going to look out the door on the 25th and see snow?
Slim. It snowed the other week, so we've had the snow for this year now.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah.
No.
Rain
Yeah,
the rest of the way.
I think the statistics are you're more likely to have snow or a snowy Easter than you are snowy Christmas.
Really? Well, our tradition
Was
here
it?
is to have a blizzard on St. Patty's Day in March when the Free Jacks traditionally have our home opener. It's pretty funny.
Hmm.
I think it's happened every single year. No, one year it was just cold and rainy, and the other couple have just been absolute blizzards.
I think the
Which is
tradition in the UK is for either England or Ireland to ruin the other one's Grand Slam. That seems to be always the way in the Six Nations. Whichever one of the two's on the Grand Slam, the other one knocks them out on that day.
So if you guys want to pull up your Heineken Cup pools, I am curious. I would love to get your top 2 finishers for each of the pools in the Champions Cup. I'm just for the sake of us being
You're
wrong later.
really testing me now, David. You're really testing me.
Is this not okay? You don't want to pick your top team for these pools?
I need to know who's even in whose pools, because the format is so messed up now that we've all kind of tuned out a bit. Like, we would have known in the old format.
Well, it's
who was
funny.
where.
I didn't even put this in the script, but then earlier on you said, "Oh, later when we get to our picks," and I was like, "Oh, geez, I guess I should add that."
No, that was Harley. Harley, for God's sake.
Yeah. Do you want me to quickly go through the pool?
Between
the
Max
pools for you,
Llewellyn
Hugh? I've got them
and-
up.
and-
I've got
Let's
them
do
up.
this.
I'll pull them up on BBC Sport now. So Pool 1, Bordeaux and Toulouse. Pool 2, La Rochelle and Leinster. This is easy. Pool 3, probably Saints
Wait,
and
I'm sorry.
Saracens now.
I'm sorry. La Rochelle and Leinster.
Yeah.
Okay. Last week, just so you know, Johnny and Craig, they both agreed UBB and Toulouse in Pool 1. Johnny went with Leinster and Bristol in Pool 2, which
That's
made
not gone well.
my head can do a little flip. And Craig said Leinster and Bath, not to be forgotten. Bath just kind of hiding in that pool. And
That's not gone well either.
And you're saying Leinster and La Rochelle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pool 3, probably based on how results have gone so far, Saints and Saracens.
Saints and Saracens. No Munster. We think that was the end of them.
Yeah.
I think the end of them
And-
getting top 2, but I still think they'll go through to the round of 16, just because Bulls don't look that interested and Stade are properly hat stand.
John and Craig agreed Munster and Saracens for that one. I think they might have changed their minds if we were talking to them today. For Pool 4, Johnny said Glasgow and Toulon, and Craig said Racing and Toulon. Racing seems mad to me.
No, not Racing. I agree with the first one, Toulon and Glasgow.
I'd say the only other one that might get through is just by random, because it's looking quite close. And Toulon did just beat. Sorry, are you saving the Toulon Glasgow game, David?
No. Oh, yes, I have not seen it yet, but it was going to blip right over my head as I was furiously writing these down.
Basically, Toulon beat Glasgow, but Glasgow got the 2 bonus points, so Glasgow are going to be top of the pool now. And
Oh, okay.
No, Toulon
I'd
are
say
top.
maybe Quins might sneak in,
Hey.
possibly, but yeah, I'd say it's probably going to be Glasgow and Toulon, just because Toulon really like this competition. And
Harley,
Glasgow are excellent.
who wins the whole thing? So it sounds like both of you are leaning away from the 5th star. Who's going to take this cup this year?
It's either
For
Toulouse
me,
or
I think it's
Leinster.
Toulouse. I can't see why. I can't see anything that would stop Toulouse. I think Leinster have got some extra things, and you can see a lot with how Leo Cullen's picking his benches for the games. He's very much focusing on trying to get that stronger bench, which is what killed them in the final. But I just think Toulouse have too much quality, and Untermach's back now, and Dupont and Untermach is just like a cheat code.
Yeah.
Because they just flow like they're just a single entity, and it's beautiful to watch.
It's the old the total is more than the sum of the parts thing with them. The two of them are at the top level, and then they just elevate each other, and then everything else just flows.
Yeah, the sum of the parts
Yeah.
is still pretty darn high, though.
Yes.
So, yeah, probably to lose it as well.
Okay.
They'll have to beat Leinster to win it. I don't know how the formats work out, whether they can both get to the final, but
Right, I'm not quite sure.
that will be the deciding thing.
Yeah, I mean, that'll depend on how it'll ranks, but yeah.
Either of you want to venture a guess as to who's going to win the Challenge Cup?
It's going to be
Cardiff
Cardiff in a
in there,
Cardiff
Leo-
Scarlets final, and Huw is going to be really annoyed with me for the rest of the year.
I'm sorry, a Cardiff what? Final?
Cardiff Scarlets final, and Hugh's just going to be really annoyed with me for the rest of it, for the rest of the year.
That would be awesome. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I've got a
Lions
dream
might
in
be
my
in
head
there.
of. I've got a dream in my head of Scarlets getting to the final, and then I get to wangle a press pass.
Ooh.
I get to hug all the players at the end.
There's some okay teams, in the Challenge Cup. The Lions look okay. Parole City, they're dangerous, in more ways than one. Newcastle's not going to win.
No, again, and a game which I know you won't have watched, but the Dragons beat Newcastle.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's Dragons first
Yeah,
away.
they've just beaten Troops here.
Oh, yeah. So how
Forever.
long?
I mean,
I was really hoping for that. That's exactly what I was hoping. I mean, and I feel bad for the Falcons because, goddamn, holy cow.
I said this is where this Boxing Day derby now is going to be thing because the tails are going to be up now.
So
Okay.
three of the 4 regions won this weekend. How interesting.
Wow, and Ospreys got spanked, so that's I don't trust them this year.
Interesting
Not good.
indeed.
Guys, this has been amazing. Any final thoughts? By the way, tell us what's coming up for HG Rugby and for the Wrap. You guys have so many iterations and tendrils of pods. What's coming up? What can all your faithful listeners and viewers be looking forward to in the next couple of weeks?
So after I get off this call, I'm probably going to hit publish on a video on my YouTube channel, which is the story of Biarritz.
Oh,
Which is a mini documentary that I've really enjoyed making. Crazy story. I'm not going to give too much away, but the title, at least for the initial upload, because I always change the title after a while, but the initial upload will be The Chaotic Rugby Cup, sponsored by Grindr. But that undersells
Enticing.
the story, I promise. It is it's a hell of a story. So that will be up this evening. The Wrap, the women's rugby pod, we did an episode that dropped on Friday morning.
It was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed that.
And someone commented on it on the YouTube and said, I'd watch this if it was 15 minutes long. That's not how podcasts work. And we only do like one every other month. So you can't you have to make us last. But so that's really good. Everyone should listen to that. And that's mostly it, I think.
Harley, what's up
from the Wrap?
other
So
Wrap?
we're all
The original
we're
Wrap.
sort of so the Welsh regional route, which is another one we might be looking at doing a rebrand and a rejigging in the new year, but watch space. We're going to be doing some of our final episodes for the year. So we like to take a break over off Christmas. We're not as hardcore as David, and
Break? What?
so we're going to go. So we're going to do a very quick wrap up of the 4 Welsh sides European campaign so far. Preview the Christmas
That's exactly
derbies,
what I was
and then
hoping
we'll
you would
be
say. A
reviewing
little
the new
wrap
year.
up. Yeah, that's great. Wrap up.
Cardiff's going to be the same as well. The Cardiff Central Pod is going to be the same. I don't. Women's Wrap, I think we might wait. With the Celtic Challenge being up, we'll see. I think.
I have to admit, I haven't
review
listened to
pods.
I listen to the Wrap every week and love it. The sub pods of the specific, the Cardiff one, the Dragons one, the Ospreys one. I download them, but I don't usually listen to them. It might be one hair too niche for me.
It is
am I
niche.
am I missing something, or should I get on board?
No, it's niche.
No, I think the idea is that the 4 pods are geared more specifically to those specific fans. We even have an even more niche one, which is Super Rugby, the Super Rugby Cymru pod, which is the level below the Welsh regions for those who are interested in club rugby.
That's actually been really successful, that one, because clearly there was a market that just had no coverage, and just Welsh domestic rugby. There was an audience there that someone tapped into, and it's gone quite well. It's almost a bit like how American rugby is an audience that no one's tapping into, and that someone should start a podcast about.
I think that was a hint that flew by my face there. We don't play that much. Like, what am I going to do? A pod every 3 months? Like, I don't know.
It's
this month's pod, AJ McGinty's injured again.
We're talking. So I said that's something that our mutual friend Rugby Julia is very into potentially doing at some point. But I mean, you've got the with the elite women's rugby. I think it's the name of the new league coming through, MLR. I mean, you can always do a USA and Eagles abroad, but at least, and obviously the USA are very big in the sevens as well. So
yeah, and you guys don't watch the sevens, right? You're not watching the HSBC series.
It's very fun. If it's on, I don't tend to make much time for it because there's so much other rugby content. When it's on for 12 hours,
so you can just kind of put it on and come in and out, watch this, watch that. Go do the dishes. It's kind of convenient. It's like it's designed to be a day when you kind of half pay attention, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, so, okay. I said I like it. It's very short attention. That's what I loved about the Olympics. So I could just go watch.
Okay, well, I love both of you so much. It's such a treat to be able to talk to you again. I wish you both the happiest of holidays. It's going to be a great season. Good luck to both your teams coming up. Your new reconfigured teams are going to be so much better now that we've fixed them. Then that's going to be so nice.
My team's going to be amazing. It's got DuPont.
I know. Toulouse is going to be like, qu'est-ce que c'est?
I'll be honest, they didn't do too badly without him last season.
It's fair. They might have some other good players, it turns out. Go back. It wasn't Toulouse, but the Raka try in the Leinster game. Oh man, I love that. Just fantastic.
Guys, I'm a big fan of Raka, but I can also understand fully why he does not have many Brands caps. I fully get both sides of that.
It's funny. Me and Johnny and Craig started talking about this. Like, is there a place? There's players who are like, you're a really good player, but your team's not quite good enough to make it to these knockouts. So you get extra weeks off, but everyone knows you're really good and you get to play amazing rugby, like in amazing circumstances, but you get 2 or 3 extra weeks off that other people don't get. Is there a little niche that somebody could fit into there? Like, what player is like that, who's always awesome and you always love seeing, but he's just not there for those extra weekends?
I mean, internationally, Sergio Parisi was always one.
That's a good one.
I think you can think Ray Lilo quite often made like the URC Pro 14 League Team of the Year, and even though Cardiff wouldn't really ever make the knockouts, just because he's just that good. And then, I suppose Faletau when he was playing for the Dragons, he'd have to have been up there then. Obviously not now he's playing for a real team, but
Huw, which player for you has struck the perfect work-life balance?
Definitely a French one.
Although they have to play 142 games despite the European competition.
Yeah, but if they're in the first team for the French team, they only play home games. So probably someone who plays, probably Raka. That's a very good example of one.
Yeah.
Someone I think in Midland French.
Yeah, Finn Russell. He seems to only play home games for Bath.
Oh, Tommaso Allen now he's not doing. Oh no, he's playing for Italy again now. I don't know. You caught me so off guard with this question. I haven't got one ready to go. Someone who's really good for a French team.
Well, we'll narrow it down next time we chat. Guys, I really appreciate your time. This has been fantastic as always. I get such a kick out of it. We've said it many times. I live in a country where there is no coverage. We don't get to talk about it. I can't go to a bar and have the game on and be like, hey, what do you think? What's going on? It doesn't happen. This is my only chance to do that. And I'm just so grateful, especially at this time of year, to have friends like you who I can sit down and chat with. And I really appreciate your time. It's just amazing. Thank you so much. I guess that's it for today. Any last thoughts? I think I've asked that 3 times. The snake is eating its tail at this point.
Happy Christmas. I'll see you on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, the dollar sign.
Guys, thank you so much. Cheers. Talk to you soon. And be well.
It gives me great pleasure to be here today.
Oh, it does, Nate.
You want to
tempt the wrath of the whatever from high atop the thing?